But yeah, so it's a summer festival. It originates in China, where it is known as the Qixi Festival. And this, for anybody who knows any Japanese, this is the number 7, and then it was introduced to Japan by the Empress Koken in 755 during the Heian period. And then it was known at the time not as Tanabata as we call it today, but as Kikoden, which is the sort of roughly translates to the festival to plead for skills. And that was the alternative name for Tanabata at the time. It is also nowadays known as the Star Festival, and I will in the next slide explain why. But it's also known as the Star Festival because it celebrates the joining of Vega, which is a real star, and Altair, which is another real star, and they meet. Next slide, please. So again, a very, very 30-second history of Tanabata. In China's Qixi Festival, it celebrates the meeting of the weaver girl, Niulang, and Jinu, which is the cowherd. It's a romantic story of basically forbidden love. So the story goes, there are different variations of this story, but the story goes that it is the weaver girl wishes, to be with this cowherd. And originally her father says, yes, you may be with him, but then they get so happy that they forget their duties, so she stops weaving and he stops cowherding. And so the cows are running wild and no one's doing the weaving, and so her dad gets mad and then he separates them. But she cries so much that she, in some versions, she creates the Milky Way, the heavenly river, from her tears. And then so her dad's like, okay, well, once a year you get to meet. And so this is the time that they get to meet, right? So this is the sort of a romantic tale of forbidden romance. They're very, depending on the region, there are different variations of this tale. Sometimes it says that a flock of magpies creates a bridge between the Milky Way, why they get to meet. When it rains, it is said that they're not able to meet that year, and so the rain is their tears because they're not able to meet. So that's very sad. But yes, it developed during the Han Dynasty, which is between 202 to 9 CE, and then there was a bit of a hiatus because of political reasons, and then from 25 to 220 CE. It is also, variations of this is celebrated in South Korea, where it's known as the Chuseok. Chil just means 7, so it's pretty much the same. Thank you. Right, so just, iconography. This is, in Japan, we call him Hikoboshi-sama and Orihime, Hime for princess. Right, so several different traditions. There's like a song for Tanabata, which I'm not going to sing for you, thank goodness. I was just playing in the background. So there are several different cultural traditions, one of which is to write wishes on the tanzaku, which are these strips of paper you can see here. Also, Jenna very kindly also contributed. Thank you very much. And we'll all be contributing today. So this is sort of the most famous Tanabata song. So this tradition started because, as it said on the previous slide, it was known as the pleading for skill. So originally it was to get better at weaving and to acquire wealth, because cowherd back in the day, how many cows you had was a sign of your wealth. And so this was both to plead for skills and also, and by skills I mean like tactile skills, not like coding skills, but and then also to grow your wealth. But nowadays people wish about many things, like, I wish to get into Harvard, et cetera, et cetera. So like nowadays you can wish for anything you want. There's also a lot of summer festivals. Japan has a lot of Omatsuri in the summer. And that it also corresponds a lot with the Tanabata time period. If you know the history or the cultural festival of Obon, that is when Japan traditionally honors their ancestors. And so because it is around the same time of the year, so historically Obon, nowadays it's in different regions, it's based on the lunar or the Gregorian calendar, it is, or lunisolar calendar, I should say. It is celebrated in either August or July, but traditionally it was always celebrated in the middle week of July. And so the Tanabata, which is also sort of in the middle-ish of July, they got a little bit merged. So depending on the region of Japan, how you celebrate Tanabata and how you celebrate Obon tends to be a little bit similar. So for instance, depending on the region, during Obon, for instance, where you honor one's ancestors, you float paper ships. So you have paper ships and you put candles on them and sometimes food for the ancestors. And then again, traditionally, you send them down the river. You can't do that now because it's littering, but depending on the region, they still sort of symbolically do that, and then everybody takes the paper, so it doesn't litter. But during Tanabata, for those regions, they do something similar, and so they may sometimes make like a paper thing filled with everyone's wishes and candles, and then the next day or at midnight, again depending on the region, they burn it so that your wishes go to the heavens, etc. Also, these next slide, please. These big tubular things are called fukinagashi, and this originates again in the story of the weaver girl. She weaves, and this was to wish for better weaving skills. So that's where it originates. Now it's just sort of a general omatsuri, like summer festival thing, symbol of like festivity, but that is where it originates. This is hiratsuka, I believe, which are the consul, Yukata-san, his hometown. I've been there. They have one of the biggest festivals in the Kanto region for Matsuri. And this is another photo. Iwate-ken actually has a huge festival of
Sendai.
Sendai is the biggest, but Iwate also has a
Also.
it was in the top 20, but Sendai is like the top one.
Yeah.
This I think, this is not Sendai, but yeah. Another illustration. So usually, this is not specifically for Tanabata, but things like takoyaki, which you might know, or yakisoba, which is it's fried, stir-fried noodles, are often available in these sort of yatai, which is our street food in summer festivals. Next, please. During Tanabata, many Shinto shrines, jinja or Buddhist temples, otera, also have these are bamboo, sasa, and where people put their wishes, and many temples, and both Shinto temples and Buddhist temples often have these for the festival lineage. All right, so now we're going to, any questions about that part so far? No, that, sure.
Question, sorry.
Yes.
Are there any films about the story? I'm just curious. The love story.
I mean, they're like children's cartoons. I'm not sure if there's like a huge production. I'm not a movie buff, but I can't say that there isn't. Yeah. Thank you for the question. So now we're going to the, please.
If you don't live in an area where we have these kinds of trees, but you want to make a wish, is there still a good chance that you put your wish on any kind of regular tree, there's a chance it'll still get granted?
I don't see why not. I put it on like an IKEA lamp once, so like, did it go true? I guess so. Yeah, the efficacy, you will have to do a scientific experiment on that. I cannot, I don't have the data for it. All right, so we're going to the yukata section. So what I'm wearing right now is a yukata. Right, and this is an unlined summer kimono, and it's casual. You do not wear this during formal occasions. So like no weddings, for instance. Traditionally, the textiles were dyed via a technique called nagaita chugata, wherein fabric was stretched over a really long wooden board, usually Japanese fir. It's about 7 meters, and then you stretch the fabric over it, and then dye was actually hand stenciled both sides. Okay, but this was very expensive and it was very costly in terms of time as well. And so later, during sort of the end of the Edo period to Meiji period, different fabric manufacturers claim that they started this, but they developed a new technique called chusen, wherein you still stretch the fabric, but instead of hand stenciling both sides, you pour it, and then you sort of use this like brush thing, and it was a faster way to create this linen. All right, so components of a yukata. You have the undergarments, which is usually like a linen slip or like a linen shirt and and pants for a guy. You have the yukata itself. Again, so this is usually cotton or linen, not silk because it's hot. And then you have the obi belt, and you have these wooden clogs that are called geta. Often you have the kinchaku bag, which I have that I'll show you in a minute. And that's about it. All right, so this is a very common question that I get all the time. Kimono versus yukata, what is the difference? So with kimono, it has an inner lining, and it's usually worn, it's worn all season, and also in the summer if it's like a wedding or if it's like a very formal event. And it's usually worn with multiple layers. Okay, so you have not just the undergarment and then this, but you have like multiple layers, and you show it in your collar, and how many stripes you have, how many layers you wear is traditionally, especially during the Heian Jidai onwards, like a sign of wealth. Okay, so it has multiple layers. It is worn with a tabi, which is like a white socks that you put on your feet, obviously, and it's split-toed because of the hip. And it's usually made of silk, and it has a formal obi. So this way of doing a bow is not the most formal style of obi, and there are different ways that you can tie it, and it's more formal. Whereas with a yukata, it has no lining, as you can see. If you want to put it on, you can see that there's no lining. It's worn as a single layer over your slip. It is worn without socks because it's summer. It is often cotton or linen. Again, it's casual, and it tends to have a more narrower obi. I will show you in a bit for that. And again, this is for summer. Yeah, you can see. So on that side, you can see a kimono, and here you have a yukata. You can see that this is kind of the only thing she's wearing. Whereas, at least for them, you can see at least 2 layers, I think. And for him, well, he has a haori, but he has multiple layers. Thank you. All right, I thought it would be a little bit interesting to not just show you yukata, which you might already know, but to explain some of the symbology and the meaning behind the different design motifs that you might have seen. So you probably already know that the imperial family's crest is the chrysanthemum, it's the kiku. And it's not just their sign, it is their sign because it is apotropaic, which is a too fancy scholarly term meaning warding evil. So it wards off bad fortune, bad spirits, bad illnesses, it wards off bad luck. And it's a symbol of longevity, so your life and also your progeny's lives will be long and fruitful. So it is that. So you often see that in, I don't think one does, but I guess I don't have longevity, that's okay. But you often see this as a motif in kimonos, especially sort of more ceremonial kimonos. And then you have obviously the sakura, which is very common. It is of transient beauty, and because sakura do not bloom too long, it is often like a Buddhist symbol in Japan. It's a cultural symbol. And you have tsu, which will be in the next slide, which is a crane, which is longevity, grace, elegance, because of what the crane looks like and various myths surrounding the crane. With peony, which we call botan, it is a symbol of prosperity, nobility, and wealth. Sometimes it's called the king of flowers. So that's the peony. You have lilies. The white lilies tend to be purity, mourning, and grace, but also hope and renewal. Hot tip, if you are ever in Japan and your friends in the hospital, do not bring white lilies to their hospital. Okay, do not do this. It means that you want them to die. And then you have several patterns that I think many of you have seen. Several of the famous ones is the Asanoha pattern, which is this one, this top one. It is apotropaic, again, meaning it wards off evil, and you wish for healthy growth of children. Especially, back then, it was much, much, much more common for children to die before they reach adulthood, and this was a wish for your children to be healthy. And we have the Kikko pattern, which is sort of this tortoise-looking thing on the upper right corner, and this is for longevity. And it looks like a bunch of, you might think it's like beehives, but it's also a bunch like turtles, like turtle shells. And turtles, if you know, they live a long time, right? So this Kikko pattern is for longevity. Then you have the Seiga pattern, which is these like 3 waves, and this is for wishing for lasting happiness and peace. Depending on the region, especially if you're like a sailing folk. Again, Japan is a series of islands, so many people had something to do with the sea, and peace would be no storms. So this is that pattern. Camellias tsubaki is another very popular motif, and that's depending on the colors. It could be for love, red, longing, or white, but generally speaking, it's hope. And then you have shochikubai, which is sort of more of a New Year's thing. It's often seen in like kamaboko, for instance, which are fish cakes. And that is pine, bamboo, and plum, which are respectively symbolize steadfastness, perseverance, and resilience, and altogether it is good fortune. We have fans also, which is nobility, growing wealth, good fortune. A lot of the former aristocratic families in Japan have the fan as their family crest. My grandmother's, for instance. Then you have the phoenix, which is a mythical creature that was came over from China. And then you have things like mon, which is like berries. It's like the family crest. Sorry, please. Here you have, it's very tiny, but it's the mon. Oftentimes, for male ones, it's sort of on the sleeve and like on the back. You still wear it as in formal occasions, especially for funerals, I think. Here you have the crane and the pine. I think this is, hold on, it's beauty. And here you have the mint, which is plum blossoms, which is steadfastness, because plum is an early flower. So it's a hopeful flower. It's one of the first flowers to bloom after winter. So that's like another hopeful thing. Thank you. Here you have like a gorgeous one, a formal kimono, not a yukata, of cranes. You have shochikubai here, so you have like plums and pine, and you have so you have this one, and then these spike leaves, and then this one, bamboo, sorry. And then you have the phoenix here, and obviously you have the fans here, and the fans have more pine. Thank you. All right, so yukata today, as I said, is usually worn during summer festivals or sort of like casual parties. Some people have yukata parties, for instance. All right, so I just want to, before I let you off to do the workshop sessions, because maybe some of you would like to take a photo eventually with either a kimono or a yukata on, not kimono today. I thought that it would be maybe helpful to tell you sort of mini style tips and do's and don'ts of kimonos. All right, so before I tell you, for the lovely lady on the right here, or the left, your left, which do you think is the do and the don't?
Do I guess the picture on the right
Is the what?
is the do because
And why is that?
because the way that her arms are put together probably probably communicates respect.
Oh, that's very, very nice. Yes, I'm not saying you're wrong. You're right. This is indeed the do, so very nice. One thing that she does is like she puts her knee a little bit this way, and so instead of us sort of like laying this way, which also makes you look kind of fat, which is fine. But it's a little bit better if you like put your knee a little bit this way, because then like your the gara, so the fabric's design I can see it better, and also it makes a nicer straighter line than this sort of like flange thing over here. All right. So in terms of here, what somebody else maybe, there's 2 do's and 2 don'ts. Yes, please.
Is that ring at the bottom right?
Which one? This one?
Yeah, you shouldn't wear jewelry.
Oh,
No,
it's,
never mind.
I don't think she's wearing anything. But no, in terms of posture, the top one is the do, and the bottom one is the don't. So one thing that so this way of sitting would be perfectly fine in a Western style. This is in fact how you should sit in like a wall gown, for instance, or sideways. What she's doing in both of these photos is she is sitting too far back in the chair, and what that does, it kind of ruins your line, and when you stand up, your line might be off, and also again, like you have this big bow, especially if you are a person of like female, and you have this bow thing, so you should probably not sit that far back. It is easier actually to keep a straighter posture if you don't sit all the way back in your chair. So this is an example of her sitting more shallowly on the bench, and also her feet are not together. It's a little bit diagonal, which like here, it's helpful to keep the shape and the form. Thank you. Do stand with your feet together, put your hands together and holding still. Pinch both sides of the yukata before sitting down, so don't just sit like this. Bring it up a little because it gives you a little bit more room to sit. And then when sitting, again, put one foot slightly behind the other and sit slightly forward in the chair. And always make sure that your collar is okay. You don't want this part to splay because it signals that you're maybe like a streetwalker, if you know what I mean, like the oldest profession. You don't want to look like that. So, yeah. Okay, and then for don'ts, these poor people, I'm using them as a don't, which is very mean. But you don't want your feet this way because you see that his design is off. So like with yukatas, whether it's for female or male, you want it straight, okay? And you don't want it to be like flappy. So you don't want it to be like that. And so when you walk, you don't want to make huge strides. Which is why I think Japanese people, this is a tangent, but I think have a rather distinctive walk, and it's because for hundreds of years, like, we've walked like this. So I think you can tell who's Japanese by how they walk, especially for women. Yeah, don't cross your legs when sitting, obviously. It's hard to do that anyway. And yeah, don't sit really deeply in the back. And don't put your arms to the sides in the photos because oftentimes the best design is on here, because that's what it was meant to be seen. So if you do that, then people can't see it, right? So, all right. Okay, so because I don't have multiple bodies, I thought that I would just show you the best way to do this. Okay. You don't need to read Japanese for this whatsoever. She's just going to show you how to do it. So again, the white thing is the slip beneath it. You put it together. You want it to be straight. And then you use 2 different ribbons, one down there, as you can see. And then she straightens it on top to make sure that there's no weird creases. Okay? And then once she has the creases, you want to pull it down a little bit to make sure that this isn't too tight. As you said. And then you put another string to tie this top part, and then you make sure that everything is all tucked in neatly. And then before the obi belt, you have sort of like an under belt to keep it in shape. So once you have that, you put this one. This is not the obi, this is the thing you put underneath it to make sure that everything stays in shape. And once you have that one, then oftentimes you have this thing in the back to make everything stay well. So it's like a long process. And then here we go. This is the traditional way of, well, one of the ways of making a bow. So you want to put, keep a little bit of the end so that you have room to tie it with. You go around yourself, and then you tie it clockwise. So one pointer is that when you are doing it to yourself, you do it in the front. You never want to put it this way because for kimonos, it's always left over right. The other way might be like a corpse. You always want to do left over right, okay? And so because it's this way, you always want to twist things to the right to keep shape. And then she's making her bow. And she's tucking it in, and then again, she's just rolling it to tuck it in, and then she has her bow. It's very nice looking, and then she's twisting it again to the right to keep the shape. All right, and then that's for the women. Now for the men, so same thing in the beginning. You want to make sure everything is all even. This is his undergarments, and you put right first, and then left over the right one. Same for all genders. And then you want to pinch it up so it's adjusting to your height. And then you have one lower one ribbon here, like for women. And then you tuck it in. And then you have the actual booty part. So men have it kind of easier. You don't have to put like towels and multiple obi things, which is nice. I've always been kind of envious. Fun fact: when you fold so men have a much narrower obi belt, if you notice, and you want to put the fold, the circular one down, and part of that started in the Sengoku period because men put their swords inside. So they do that. It's just a knot, really. And then you straighten the knot, and then you put it underneath. And then you make a much smaller little knot. And again, you put it towards your right to slide it to the back. And then that's basically, that's it. So you slide it to the back, and there it is. Right? So it should be roughly to the square of your back. Any questions? No. Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for listening to me, Gabber. And now I would like to split you up into two groups. Whoever you do be able to do both. Okay, so the Tanza part is very simple. You just write in whatever language you want some nice wish. And because it's going to be displayed here, like no curse words, no, like nothing offensive, right? Just like a wish. And you can put this on wherever you like. The leaves are a little bit dry and delicate, so like if you need help putting it on, like let me know, and I can help you. And so there'll be the Tanza corner over here, and if you wanted to get dressed first, then please go over there. All right, so thank you very much.
I know what's used for.
In the class, I learned the Tanabata. Like I researched the thing peacefully by myself. So they're more specific.
Yeah, is this for Japanese culture and history class? Culture and society.
I think he's in Japanese. Like we really like demonstration, like kind of like influence of the Japanese student.
Oh.
We have not like a specific
And you chose.
more basic.
In front of Japanese students.
Yeah, that's my family.
Like really simulation.
I have a kimono.
Is that for the SLO?
I have kimono.
Yeah, we sometimes do.
What I have a yukata.
She was visiting. Someone lives there. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm living in next week.
Oh, you
So
are.
every year I go to Tanabata.
Oh, is it helpful listening to one lecture about Japanese for English, right?
Yeah.
I think so. You can hold on to the and do you know these?
I think 3 times.
Oh my goodness. I think we might have spoken before. My name is Cyrus.
I'm Hugh.
Hugh, hi, nice to see you. I'm not sure, but anyway, are you working with something related to Japan or?
No, no. I mean, I was here last month for the travel dialogue.
Yeah, right. That was
The travel phrases. Yeah, I've studied Japanese on and off since high school.
Oh, wow. These are all people from Showa.
Yeah. I've taken classes at Showa.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I run students don't have enough opportunities to interact, so we created like a website together.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, if you're ever available, it's cheap. It's $5 for all you can eat, and that cafeteria is actually pretty good.
How do I
can take your email. Which one I'm doing? Yeah, really. It's nice. I did my dissertation on Mima's interaction experience.
Oh, really?
Quality.
Yeah. So
And the leaders,
Yeah.
we're not going to get it just because there's English. You really have to interaction. There's a lot of like zero interaction with friends.
While they're
Before they come home. Most of them go home without really forming relationship.
Yeah.
Met someone on a regular basis.
Right.
They go, well,
Yeah.
I don't really understand the design.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Yeah. Well, I think I mean, there's like people see a lot of economic value in English, right? That's just kind of like lingua franca. That's would be my guess as to what's driving that. But it's like you need the cultural exchange. Otherwise, like learning a language without the cultural component is like you're not really getting
Exactly. It's like a petri dish.
Yeah.
Like there was a study in Spain, Americans studied Russian, studied Spanish.
Yeah.
And one group went into an intensive Spanish program, like a 3-month-long program.
Yeah.
Intensive classroom-based
Oh
program.
my God.
And one group did service learning, like volunteer. And this group actually used Spanish more in the classroom, but this group learned more Spanish.
Oh, interesting.
So like, it's a very efficient way.
Right.
You're better off giving them, like they could have class 3 days a week, 4 days a week at the most, but 1 day a week should be an ongoing context. Create some crayons, whatever, some group that they're work with volunteers, soup kitchen, something which is interactive. So you just have that going, and then they will learn more.
Yeah.
It's more of a safety.
And well, sure. But I mean, I feel like learning is rooted in memory. It's like I learned this, kind of phrase because I had to. Like if if you're out and about Japan, like and you you have to order the unagi, right? Like, and so you have to figure out or how to ask for the check. Like, I'm recalling my own experience, like, you know, like okaike onegaishimasu, like I had to learn that.
Yeah, right.
And it stuck with me because it served a purpose in that specific instance.
Right,
You know?
right, exactly. Yeah. So I mean, I learned, you know, there's a term now that I found in like my studies of street learners, street learning. Like that's how we learn.
Yeah.
I took classes. I don't really recall any moments in class where I really learned something big.
Right.
But I do recall a lot of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, you got to put them in that context. And then beyond language, so like on a language level, they're not keeping them in the classroom. And then beyond that, they're like in a petri dish. Like that really equips you to handle some guy who's like,
right.
You know, I mean, it's not all about being friendly.
Right. It's about getting through whatever interaction you have.
All of that, and that's pretty much. So anyway, whatever it is, I created what we call the Japanese teaching club, because how else are you going to work with the show in Boston? You know, call it just the friendship club. Probably attract some weirdos too. You know, all your friends.
Yes.
But this is like a teaching Japanese club. You do dinner for an hour, and like if you've ever been to a Royal Host in Japan, they've got these like Royal Host type tables in the back of our cafeteria. It's like semi-private area. It's like, you know, 4 people can sit down like comfortably like you're in a restaurant.
Oh, nice.
And we put whiteboards on the table and just teach the country or whatever you're from, or you can. And then we always have something afterwards, like taiko drums there.
Oh, nice.
So those are some of the big ones. We did a Chihiro Tamadango making dessert party a couple weeks ago. We're going to be doing sweet card, like smashes in watermelon, you know, stuff like that in the second hour. So it runs from 5 to 7. And like people that come friends, and they had a session here a few weeks ago. Yeah, so we'd love to have you. Yeah. What kind of work do you do?
I'm a software developer. I work actually across the street. Like web page, web apps, you know. JavaScript. Yeah, so it's pretty convenient. I know the idea of the concept is right across the street from work. It's like,
How to get here? Fun parking.
Yeah.
But it's a good series. I like the.
Did I hear someone say idle?
Saying that some like
I do.
for the guy, the sluggish is they say why idle comes to my town.
I lost it. I went to Walmart. I went to that. I was I didn't discover love life until I was 14.
Go there to work with people or something.
Oh, yes.
Actually,
Oh, God, that's
Sign on.
she's working with a big company.
Oh, and yes, I wish to return to Japan and to get better at this. I tried to do it. Pumped up this like the
who has a question? It's I love cheese. They really don't like it.
I'm doing well so far where I am right now. I mean, it doesn't get much better than out there.